Hello, everybody, and welcome to the Supernatural Substation. You are listening to the United Public Radio Network. I am your host, Eileen Pastanio. It is the 17th of November, 2017, or 2017, for those of you keeping track. And I will need to see how well you've been keeping track of the date. So I'm flying solo tonight because my good friend and co-host Bernadine LeBlanc is under the weather, as are most people. Let me just tell you about our guest tonight. We have Pete Haviland returning. He's a good friend in Texas. He's with Lone Star Paranormal. He's a independent paranormal researcher and a certified hypnotist. And we are attempting to do a call-in show. So we will just going to take it by ear and see if he has some peeps out there that want to call in. The other thing that we're doing this Friday night is we're on a death watch. I don't know if he's dead yet or he's dying, or maybe he died and nobody said anything yet. But Charles Manson may be dead. Of course, there were no earthquakes and there was no peal of thunder like when Aleister Crowley died. But I've actually found some people defending him online, saying that he was, labeled a mass murderer, etc. And he never did anything. He never killed anybody, the whole thing. And well, Hitler didn't kill anybody either, even when he was in the army. But there's a lot of dead people that were inspired by Mr. Hitler. So who he probably will be seeing soon. Charles Manson, one of a kind, hopefully. He does remind me of somebody, though. Unfortunately, somebody that I'm related to. I mean, general appearances, but we're all crazy. So, Pete's going to be up in a few minutes. I don't know what we're going to do filling in. I know that I noticed a couple of, oh, wait. I'm sorry. W.S. Lewis. This is your favorite part of the show, the first 30. Only you're just going to get 15, maybe even 4 more minutes of it. So stick around. You call it the bullshit part. Tonight, I might live up to that or down to that. Doesn't matter. Anyway, I noticed there was some sort of a new show on Destination America. I'm recording it. It's something to do with the Cecil Hotel. So if you're a cable subscriber and you have Destination America, go and DVR it. Apparently, one of the episodes in about an hour from now is covering the case of Elisa Lam, who died, was found in the water tank atop the Cecil Hotel. In fact, Bernadine and I are possibly next week, we will, instead of just doing a roundup of the month, we may be just talking about the Elisa Lam case because it's so complicated and it crosses the boundaries of credulity for, so many things to happen the way that they did. There are some people that think, oh, it's a straight up case of murder. They dumped her in the water tank. It's a straight up case of suicide. She jumped in the water tank. It's supernatural. It was Richard Ramirez, another great guy. He'll be seeing Charlie later too. Richard Ramirez lived there while he was committing the mass murders in California. So we've been thinking about just dedicating a whole show to that, which we probably will do, depending all things considered, next week. So at the end of the show, usually I say this. I have a terminus tonight, and I like to promote my show usually at the end. So it's 2 a.m. Central Time. And I just tell you, hang out, get creepy. Tonight I put together, I was thinking, what's kind of creepy and cold and, and it's Vikings. So don't miss it tonight, 2 a.m. Central Time. Turn it on, turn it up. And I heard that it's pretty popular out there. Joe, do we have somebody on the line? Peter?
Yes.
There you are. I was just,
you are.
Yeah, I was just kind of BSing, waiting for you to call in. So.
I thought I heard some dangerous stuff going on the airwaves, but I wasn't really too sure.
What, die Charles Manson?
Yeah, that was it. That was one of them.
I can't confirm it. I mean, I saw one report. No, I mean, he's been at death's door for 3 times in the past month and a half. And I'm like, boy, death is having some fun with him. It's yeah, I'm going to take it. No, I changed my mind. Yeah, come on. I'm going to, and the whole thing. But a news agency out of Florida actually said that he was, but, we'll hear maybe a thunderclap or an earthquake or
Mm.
something, or maybe we'll just hear like like a little, and there he goes, like an old fart.
Well,
So
well, you know what's going to end up happening. Some of these spirit box people are going to try to contact him after he passes and try to flood the internet with what
hmm
they think is going on.
yeah, they didn't have enough
Yeah,
what do you call it, enough gumption to go visit him like a Corcoran or whatever and actually
yeah,
talk to him alive. So they want to talk to him when he's dead, which usually
yeah.
he'd be more powerful then, but he's not going to be because they're waiting on the other side. I mean, I'm joking about Hitler and Aleister Crowley and all, but there's something waiting for him on the other side. He's just people defending him, saying he never killed anybody, and he's just pegged with these mass murders, and you know, he's guilty of some killings prior to. I mean, he was institutionalized his whole life in prison, and he talked about killing people. But he
Oh yeah,
didn't, just because he didn't, participate in the murders on, the Cielo Drive murders, whatever. It didn't mean that he
yeah.
didn't
The
kill
Taylor
anybody.
Bianco.
He
Yeah,
was because he was a hardened criminal who I wouldn't want to
yeah.
be around, even if, so. But anyway, I guess we'll be hearing that news soon. And you're right. And immediately I thought about who might be doing that, but I'm not going to say any names, like
Yeah,
get
he
out
who
there with their
should not be
business.
he who should not be named.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
definitely.
He'll crawl out of the woodwork and
Mm-hmm.
make his presence known with all this BS. You know how it
Mm-hmm.
goes. Yeah.
So, yeah, I know. Usually, it gets kind of like pantomime theater after a while. It's like, they can't think of anything new to do. You know what I mean? Um, I mean, there's always going to be dead people, but they're kind of running out of.
Pantomime theater. Oh my God.
Let me ask
Oh,
you that because Bernadine and I have been talking, and they people have asked us. It's like, it's really plateaued out. Like there's like some new shows, right, that have come out, and they're mostly, like The Haunting, on the Discovery Channel and all that. But I mean, I think it's plateaued out, and you've got all the same people doing pretty much the same thing. It's just replicating everything that's been done, and
yeah.
I feel and Bernadine feels that the next logical step, but I doubt this will ever happen. In fact, I know this will never happen, is to, have some sort of a consortium or, a group of people that's basically pleasing to everybody, which is, again, pipe dreaming. But, actual neutral skeptics looking at the evidence and everybody submit their evidence to them, like they did with the American Psychical Society, the British Psychical Research Society, the old societies that
Oh
still
yeah. The
exist.
ASPR, the SPR,
Yeah. Yeah. But,
the Rhine Research Center.
well, yeah, I mean, don't
Well,
you
you
think
know,
people would want to do that?
Lloyd and myself and a gentleman from up in Dallas, we tried to get a consortium together to do just that, and to be quite honest, we were looking at teams to come in and to be representatives for the different states, and you would be surprised that a lot of people didn't really want to do that because. There was a lot of ego stuff. I mean, it's just like
No, I'm not
who's going to be
surprised.
in it?
I'm not
Who, you know,
surprised.
who's going to be in it? Or they didn't want to be part of it because they wanted to be the one that was the one that called a spade, and
hmm
and finally it just got to the point. I mean, we had worked on that for probably almost a year. Yeah, I can't remember. I can't remember exactly how long we worked on it. I mean, if you talk to Lloyd, he can probably tell you, because we made him the president of it, and
hmm
it just got to the point that we couldn't get people in, and it just ended up just dying.
Yeah.
As
Advantage.
and that's what frustrates the hell out of me is that people call for paranormal unity. But when you have somebody like Lloyd that wants to step in and try to help, and you don't want to be part of it, I don't want to hear anything about it. It's more of a,
Yeah.
it just seems like it's more of a cliquish base of getting together and partying and being around with people that are like-minded, but you're not wanting
Well, and patting
to
each other on the back and saying, yeah, that's a great shadow
yeah,
person or whatever. I mean, they don't want to hear
yeah,
somebody say, well, maybe not. They really don't. You know, they
Well,
don't want to hear that.
yeah, exactly. And another thing is when you post evidence. Okay, so you got a shot. You're asking for opinions. Right
Mm-hmm.
away, if the opinion goes against what you think it is, then
Mm-hmm.
all of a sudden, not only do the arguments ensue, but they're personal arguments. It's not even an argument
Yes.
on the topic. It's
Mm-hmm.
you're ugly and your mother dresses you funny. I have no
Yeah.
I have no respect for that. I have none. I mean, it's if you're wanting to peer judge, you should be open to all aspects. I mean,
Right.
I mean, let's be honest. When you're throwing it open to the net, you got a lot of strange people on the net. You know,
No. Yeah. That's a very good one.
especially yeah. You have shoot. There's probably more trolls than there is anything else. That they love
Mm-hmm.
watching people just going at each other.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, exactly. And then you have the camps of like if somebody says something bad about, somebody, then they have their camp of supporters, and then it's
Oh
this,
yeah, then it's camp
and they're
versus
trying to
camp, and
right, and they're
yeah,
trying to
you saw
ruin
yeah you always
each
you
other.
solve absolutely nothing besides starting to uh, uh, delete people and stuff like that because you get tired of the bull crap.
Yeah, the
I
bullshit.
just
The bullshit. You can say it. We're online.
oh okay
Yeah,
okay.
no, yeah, you can say that. Just not the F bomb. But
Oh well, that was going to be my
because
next
I'll
word.
have to smack your fingers. No, yeah, no. What I mean, no, but you're right. Okay, I mean, look, I think about it. I look at it like who's somebody everybody respects. Okay, and then you kind of got it's kind of hollow or a little porous there because I would think somebody like if he was alive, Ed Warren, and then the old hands like Zathis and Auerbach and Kazmarek, the other ones that were like in the 70s. Well, people like that could sit and had different experiences, and some actually people that had nothing to do with paranormal, maybe engineers and stuff like that. If they if the teams think what they're doing is good and they are confident in their evidence and their analysis of it, then they should hold it up to scrutiny. They should show it. I mean, what if one of these teams really does have proof of something? I mean, seriously, what if?
Oh,
And we never
I don't.
hear about it because they're
Yeah,
posting like, I hate you and you're an idiot and you have a glass eye and you look like a goat. I
yeah.
mean, we never hear about it. But if it doesn't, congeal like that, then where are you going to go with this?
Oh, I
Where
don't
does it?
disagree.
No, I know
I
you
don't
agree. But it could be
Yeah,
out there. Every something that would be.
it very well could be. But you know what
Mhm,
really is frustrating.
mhm,
Even if you have a great shot, nobody's going to believe you anyway because it's so easy to fake a shot
mhm.
between apps and applications.
Yeah,
You could
and that's unfortunate too. Right?
it is unfortunate. It is.
Like,
At least with old school stuff with the SLR cameras and 35 millimeter
mhm,
film, you could send it off to Kodak
the
and they can
negative.
verify the film for you. All right,
Absolutely.
but if you don't have um, the original file that came from on your camera,
Hmm.
you know, you have no way to look at the EXIF file to see if what it is and what and how it was shot and all that other stuff. Usually, when you transfer that to other mediums, you destroy the EXIF, so you're screwed.
Right.
You got no way of verifying it.
Yeah.
I try to
I have
explain
a
that to folks, and they tell me to go crap in my
yeah,
ass.
that
Well,
you're
I'm just
wrong
like,
and yeah,
I don't know
and
what I'm
there,
talking about. Okay,
then
fine.
you get those. Well, I was gonna say about my camera. I have a Minolta SLR 35 millimeter manual. It has no auto, it
I
has a
still shoot
meter.
with 35 mil.
Well, yeah, for a
I still
while
shoot
it
with.
kind of went out. Thank God for the hipsters because now it's all back in. But I need some repairs done on mine. But that that camera went. I loaded in the dark,
Mhm,
at Led Zeppelin concerts, at this concert and that. So and it's if it's on the negative, it's there. Or if it's on the
mhm.
negative, if it's in the picture and it's not on the negative, maybe okay. But the
Exactly.
negative film is something hard hard, like hard
Hmm.
ware that you can hold in your hand and say, well, what the hell is that? And blow it up and
Yeah.
send it off, like you say, for
Hmm.
examination. Digital cameras, the
Exactly.
digitals are terrible because you'll see people look at that ghost going up the stairs at the hotel in
Well,
Texas or whatever, and
well, digital
it's a
camera
human
is,
being. It's a human
yeah,
being. Like they're moving so fast that
yeah.
it's a digital blur, right? But that's a ghost, and so suddenly it's on
Right.
TV.
Well,
That's
the digital age is instant gratification.
hmm
So
and instant
you want
error.
you take your shot, it's right there. Okay.
Mhm.
So yeah, I don't know, man. It's just you try to tell people to back stuff up with the old school stuff because it's easier to verify, and then you get told that, well, it's 2017 now, and we use digital. Okay, well, all right. Well,
And you
don't
so
expect
what?
people to listen to you if you're going to be showing stuff.
Well,
It's
look,
real,
I
a
mean,
lot.
back in the day in the 70s, when Hans Holzer and those were the people, and Ed and them, what did they think they were using? They were using reel-to-reel recording tapes or cassettes, magnetic tape, right, on cassettes. And they were either using Polaroid cameras of the old style Polaroids, or they were using cameras,
Well, yeah.
negative film cameras. And the
Well,
evidence
Sarah,
is
yeah,
just
Sarah Estep,
compelling.
when she was doing her, when Sarah Estep was doing her EVP stuff, that was reel to reel or shoebox recorders,
Absolutely.
and
But
that's
now,
back when, that's when if you got something, usually an A class EVP,
hmm,
you didn't have to make it sound like a robot and guess what you were listening to.
yeah.
It was it was an EVP.
Yeah,
I mean,
that's exactly
listen to
right.
her,
And that's
yeah,
the whole
listen to her
point of it.
stuff.
It's
Hmm.
something anomalous on the magnetic tape. And they
Hmm.
could, just the idea of impressing it onto either reel to reel tape or, Super 8 film even. It's weird that they're not purists, I guess. I guess they didn't cross over into whatever came back in
Hmm.
style, but this digital stuff is the undoing of a lot of stuff. And then
Yeah, it is.
the shows on TV accept anything. Like if it shows anything, there was a piece of look, no, let me back up. Just tonight, there was a post that I put on Facebook, and it was allegedly a woman in Britain who took pictures at the hospice where you can, it's on my page. I don't know if I tagged you. I tagged so many people. But anyway, she was supposed to have taken pictures at the hospice where her father was passing away at the hospice.
Hmm.
And it's this hallway. And now this was supposed to have occurred a couple of years ago. And now she's coming forward with them. And she said, and she explains it as a gatekeeper and a raven. Okay. So
What?
it's a blurry shot of one end of the
A
hallway.
a gatekeeper and a
Yeah, a
raven?
gatekeeper. Okay, the thing at one. Okay, so the one end of the
Uh,
hallway, like you're standing in the door and you shoot
my
left, and then
head
you shoot
hurts.
right. I mean, you can see the raven. I would say the raven's Photoshop. The thing at the end of the hall is blurry, um, and it could be. Well, she thinks it's a hooded figure with a book. And what is death that's showing up and checking it off? Like who am I picking up at this
Mm,
hospital? I gotta check. It could be anything. It could be a
yeah.
stretcher. It could be a laundry bin, a food cart. And the point my friend Jerry asked me on Facebook, "What do you think?" I said, "I'm wondering why she's taking pictures of empty halls and they're blurry." I
Yeah.
mean, and she said, "Oh, it was a gatekeeper coming to get her dad." And then the other thing I said, "Look, if that was at the end of the
Oh,
hall and a
please.
raven while my dad was dying, my dad wouldn't be in that hospice anymore. I'd have carted his ass
Oh,
out of
come.
the hospice."
I mean,
So
come,
it's
come
blurry
on.
pictures. Yeah, you can
You
check it
know,
out
when,
on my page, but it's
well,
like,
yeah. I mean, we deal with energy. Okay, there is no gatekeeper. That's a man-made construct of what you think that, death is.
right.
You deal with energy. Energy
Mhm.
comes, energy goes. Yeah, you can get energy. You can get something intelligent showing itself, and so forth and so on. But a gatekeeper with a book, oh please,
Yeah, rounding the corner. And so when
yeah.
Jerry asked me that, I said, my first question is why she took a picture of an empty hallway. And then the raven, you can see it's a wheelchair, like kind of tucked in a little alcove out of the way,
So
which is probably real. They got a
you trying to
raven.
tell me that's Edgar Allan Poe?
I don't know. Or, well, the raven. She thinks it's a gate. Why would a gatekeeper and a raven show up? Why, well,
well,
ravens, and
metaphor.
crows.
Yeah, metaphorically, a raven is death, isn't it?
Well, it is. It's associated with
Yeah,
death. The raven, the crow,
yeah,
the owl. Those are all things
yeah,
associated with death and passing over and Plutonian influences and stuff like that. And that's why I
yeah.
said if I saw those two things in the hallway when my dad was in the hospice, he'd be rolling out the door. Okay, it would just be like he ain't staying in this hospital. But I mean, why? It's just a mentality of why would you think that black raven and that hooded thing are good in any way? Your
I
dad's.
would ask the nurse to shoo it out the house, out of the place.
Did you see that? Yeah, going around with salt water and whatever. But it wasn't
Yeah,
real. I don't think you'll
yeah.
have to look at it to see it later. But it's too
Okay.
perfectly when everything else is blurry. It's kind of perfect, and they Photoshop everything, anything and
Yeah.
everything they Photoshop. And I just said he's too
Well,
clear with the rest of the pictures blurry. And my first thing is, what the hell is she doing in the hall taking pictures of the hall? I mean, I could see if she was like taking pictures of a relative and this showed up behind them, in the
yeah.
hall. But it's like, I don't take a picture in an empty hall unless I'm looking for something like that, or accidentally. But she's like, definitely, she took pictures of the hall while her dad was in the room dying. Come on,
Mhm.
you know, and that's
Yeah.
where it comes in that anybody can be a paranormal investigator. Anybody with a camera and a digital recorder and a black t-shirt and
Well,
jeans
see, and
can.
that's what frustrates me too. I can't tell you how many emails that I get about people asking me, how they could become a paranormal investigator. They want to do that for their job and stuff like that. They don't. Folks fail to realize that, you know, um, you don't make money at it. A handful of people get lucky, and if their series goes past the second um, series, I mean, you know what I'm saying, the second year, then you start making some money towards it. But most of the time, you have to have a full time job. I mean, for Christ's sake, Lloyd has to have a full time job, and he's a degree parapsychologist.
Yeah.
So if he's struggling, what makes you think that you're going to be able to do anything outside of you need to have a full time job? I mean,
hmm
I'm a hypnotherapist. I'm a private investigator. I'm still a parapsychologist. I'm not, I don't charge people, but still, there's no money in it. There's none.
No, because immediately if you start, they say, "Oh, you're taking money for it," but then all of their heroes take money for it, right? I mean, they were ghost hunters, okay? Jason and Grant and that team. At the end or near the end, at some point, he crossed. I'm saying Jason crossed the threshold at 62 to 65,000 per episode. That
Oof.
guy is a millionaire more than one time over. And the vast majority of what they show as science or what they show as methodology on there is fake. It's it's bullshit. A lot of it.
Right.
And the reason it's bullshit is that not because they intentionally are faking it. They have producers telling them, "We need this. We need something that looks like this." That's
Well,
how
yeah,
Grant. That's how
drama,
Grant got
drama sells
caught.
soap.
Right.
Yeah,
And Grant Wilson
yeah.
got caught with and had like a crisis of whatever, faith or
Oh,
whatever.
you talking about the shirt? You talking about the
Yeah, the
shirt tub?
shirt with the hook on it, and they're
Uh,
pulling, yeah, the
yeah,
shirt tuck. Yeah, I mean, I could
yeah.
sit there at home, drinking hot chocolate, and it's cold outside, and look at the one where they have a shadow running up the what do you call it, the gallery at the Eastern State
Mhm.
Penitentiary, and I can see a tennis shoe and a khaki pant leg, and I'm like, that's
Oh, that was
that is as
Harnois.
fake. That's as fake as
That
it could be. Wait, what?
was that Brian Harnois with that
Yeah, that was Brian running under a black.
that run dude or whatever the hell it was?
Yeah, dude, run.
Dude,
Yeah,
run.
dude.
Yeah. And,
I mean,
yeah.
I'm not here to indict people now, but
Uh,
he went off the
that's
rail.
okay.
Yeah,
Brian
I
and I
mean,
don't have
no,
a
I mean,
good,
I'm
a
not
good
saying
relationship. I'm
anything.
not really worried about it.
Well, no, I mean, but he kind of went off the rail there, which, from my perspective, is if you're around a lot of allegedly haunted locations that probably really are, okay, and you're not in the right frame of mind that you believe that it actually is, and you can be influenced by it, and you're just there to, tug on shirts and, say, oh yeah, this place is haunted. Well, then things get attached to you. And they were on for a decade. They're actually on for 10, 11 years totally, and I would imagine that some of them, had things attached to them. I mean, Brian kind of just went off the rail. And on Paranormal State, Ryan Buell, I mean, that's a sad story over there. And it seems like either you toe the line and you have season 5, 6, whatever, or you don't, and you try to stick to what you know and what's right. Your show is canceled. I mean, seriously. I can't speak out of school, but anybody can remember that Ralph Sarchie had a show called The Demon Files, and there were only 3 episodes. And
who?
If anybody, Ralph Sarchie, the Demon.
Ralph. Yeah.
Deliver Us from Evil. Well, there were only 3 episodes.
Ralph's a good guy.
He is. He's a great guy.
I've talked to him a couple of times on Facebook. He's a good guy.
I mean, I needed help
his
with
his heart's in the right place.
Right, but I mean, he didn't ever tell me anything about it. But I knew they were wanting him to be like, I was surprised he was in a team situation, so they wanted him to have a team, and it was just like everything else. I was really surprised because I thought it would be him and just the couple of guys that he works really close with. 3 episodes in, I'm pretty sure what he did was walk away and say, I'm not, I'm not here, so you can have entertainment.
That wouldn't surprise me with Ralph. I mean, he's pretty stand-up guy. I mean, I'm not trying to speak for him because I would never do that, but I could see him doing that.
Got 3 episodes, and I know it wasn't.
Let's be honest too. You don't really know what the contracts say. You don't know how long a person signs a contract for. You don't know what the contract allows them to do or not do. I'm sure with the guys in Ghost Hunters, I'm sure that they're probably wrapped up with a non-disclosure agreement until their grandchildren have children or something.
Right. Probably.
Who's to say? Who's to say? I mean, and you don't know what contract that they signed and how long it was. Maybe Grant got out at a good time during renewals. Who knows?
Yeah.
You don't know what the other guys signed. You don't know how long they signed on at what time.
Right.
So they might have not wanted to do it, but they had to contractually obligated.
Yeah, there's a certain amount once they knew it was a success, and it hit right at the right time. It really did. And I mean, I used to watch it and go, ooh, and all this other stuff. I mean, I knew some of it was fake, but I watch anything that's creepy just to hear the story and stuff like that. But it became, even by like the first season, I was like, they're seeing somebody on a FLIR down in the locker room at some location, and the guy walks or whatever it is walks closer to the camera, and he's got a baseball hat with Taps written on it, and you can see it. It's and then later you see him walking around, whoever the team member was. I was like, come on. People think that they're like Moses and Abraham. Okay, that's like they're the thing. It's all scripted. It's all pushed so that it can be as entertaining as possible, because nobody's going to sit there and watch people for an hour, sitting in a room for 4 hours, condensed to an hour, and recording stuff. Or are you here? Give us a sign. Nobody.
How many times have you worked an investigation that the investigation is 4 hours? I've worked on cases that lasted over a year. All right. So, so a lot, for investigations being 4 to 6 hours, it just doesn't work that way.
Right.
Some places, sometimes you go there and you get absolutely nothing. You can get absolutely nothing for 6 months, and all of a sudden you get something. So yeah, of course, you're right. I mean, they have to script something. They have to have something in there, or else nobody's going to want to watch somebody sitting in a room going, I got nothing, man. You can't sell soap for that. You can't do anything. Who's going to tune it in?
Look, when I used to go on investigations with Bernadine and the team, she would always bring snacks, okay? And the
Oh
snack,
yeah.
it's like a tub, one of those tubs you get from Walmart. It was heavier than the equipment, right? And so I would be like, okay, I'm so bored. Okay. I mean, I would get bored. And there's a couple of us that would like fall asleep. And so I end up sitting at the quote unquote command central eating. So I'm like, I'm gaining weight. I'm not going to be here.
I've fallen asleep on a sofa before, during surveillance. You sit there watching, watching your cameras. Next thing I know, I'm jerking back, and it's like 30 minutes, 45 minutes have gone by. I'm like, shit, I fell asleep.
Just when you were going to capture something. I mean, that's good to have cameras to go back. And then a lot of people don't think about how much goes into the after product. You know what I mean? So you sit there and you may have a year, or you may find something in a month, a couple of times going back, whatever. Somebody's got to sit down there and watch all of that.
And that's another thing I tell teams is that only record what you're willing to sit in front of. And that's why, when I got my guys sitting in front of a monitor, I have them take notes. If you think you see something, write it down. So you can fast forward to that point and we can look at what you're seeing. That's the whole reason why you're sitting there looking at the monitor. Other than that, I could put static cameras in and let it run for 2 hours or 4 hours, but I'll be damned if I would sit there and look through 2 hours or 4 hours worth of stuff unless it's just a really hot area. I mean, like EVP sessions, putting down an EVP, a recorder for 2 hours. It's more efficient to do an answer session, question and answer session.
Yeah.
Because
unless you're really you like to be creeped out by noises, I mean.
No, yeah. And let's be honest. You listen to something, you listen to air for any longer than a half hour, you're going to start thinking you're hearing things because your mind is trying to make sense out of chaos. So then you're starting to lie to yourself because you think you hear something. I'd rather do the question and answer session.
Yeah, and get straight to. Well, but what do you brought that up? What do you think about white noise? There's enough
white noise when you're recording. I don't think you need to really put it into the area unless you're thinking that it's going to charge an area to add extra energy to it.
I was saying no, not to charge an area, but let's say I read about someone who used basically like it was a I don't know, they called it like an Air Force radio where it had all these it wasn't shortwave, but it had these multiple air channels where it was like shh the whole time. It was the typical white noise, the hissing. And they put it. I don't think it energizes, but I think
it makes too much. I think it makes.
You do? I think it can be manipulated. In other words, into work.
Yeah.
Not right away, and not on the first try, but I don't think.
I'm willing to try something out. But my initial thought when you're asking me is that I think it's adding more background noise, and I think you're going to screw up what you're trying to do because you want to try to.
When they do the box, when they do the AM channel scan, they have all these stupid names for them. Okay.
Yeah, well, I'm not a big fan of the boxes anyway.
They have some new one that sounds like it echoes.
Yeah, I heard.
My daughter, when she was young, they used to have these. You could buy them at Toys R Us. There were these microphones that, if you talked into them, went like rah, 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 like you were, whatever you were playing. Like
what they're doing is they've got. Well, what they're doing is they've got one of those radios that they make so that it does the scans, and they got that plugged into a noise gate to try to take the hiss down, and then they're adding a like an echo chamber or some reverb or something to. I don't know. I'm thinking that they're trying to bring out the conversation a little bit more than it just being short and choppy. But to me, honestly, I think it's I don't know. I don't agree with it, man, because you're dealing with chopped radio, radio signals. So yeah, you're going to get what sounds like sentences and stuff because you're going across stations, and then people are listening to it because they want to hear communication. It's not a question of trying to get some communication, and it's not a question of trying to get researchable points. I watched an ITC session, a live one, a couple of days ago from, I can't remember who it was, and and they're just saying, well, I hear Lucifer, I hear this, I hear that. It's very subjective because you're wanting to hear something, and then a lot of folks that are doing it too are very suggestible to this because they want to believe, they want to hear, so they make themselves hear.
Mm-hmm.
I rather just have a plain old EVP session, question and answer, try to get as detailed as possible, and look at researchable points if you can get it. And to me, that makes more sense than listening to a broken radio. I'm sorry,
Right.
but that's my opinion.
And not just radios. They have those little pulse things, that they put around on the ground and all, and it's just constant, but it's like supposedly kicked on when the spirits are around or whatever. I don't know.
I don't know. I mean,
I don't know who's engineering these things. Who is really.
Right, and I'll be honest. I would want to experiment with it, but I would never use it for real data because it's prototypical equipment. It's untried. I don't care how many times you go out and try it. And if you try to tell me that it's scientific, scientific community, the pure scientific community will laugh at you.
Yeah, they are. They do. They do laugh.
And I'm sorry. I mean, I'm all for trying to get data up and looking at the trends and understanding all of that. Hey, I'm all for it. But do what makes sense. I mean, come on. I mean, a lot of the stuff that comes out now, I think it's a lot of people taking advantage of folks in the field, and I think they're just making money off of some of this stuff. Mm-hmm. Not all of it, but some of it.
I agree. They have to be because there's such a proliferation of it. Have you ever been like watching? I don't know. I'm not going to name any names, but watching where they're reviewing. They may be doing it right away or whatever, and they say, "Oh," and they'll even print it at the bottom of the screen what it's supposed to sound like, and you heard something, and it's completely different than what they heard. And what you heard is probably creepier or more meaningful than what they say they heard. You've ever done that?
Well, yeah.
How do you get that out of that? How do you get egg out of elephant or something?
Well, yeah. Well, it's all subjective as well. When you take an EVP and you've cleaned it to the point that it sounds like a robot, and then you're telling me what you think it is. If maybe you're telling me it says Bob goes to the store. Okay, well, you're giving me an audio cue, so now my brain is looking for Bob goes to the store on this thing that you're making me listen to. If you want somebody to get, if you want to get a true thought of what an EVP is, you don't tell people what it says. Say, listen to sample A, listen to sample B. What do you get from it? If you get people, if you get 10 people saying, "Hey, man, it sounds like Bob goes to the store," without you saying anything, then you got something. If you're giving an audio cue of what you think it is, you've just screwed up your data.
Yeah.
You can't tell me. You can't tell me different.
Right, because they'll never hear anything else. That's a good way. I mean, that's a good way to isolate it, I guess, I don't know. Well, I think I don't know. I can't, there's so many teams out there. There's so much on the internet and all. And I'm going to stick in the area of everything is debatable. Everything, unless you are willing to put your theory to the test, unless you are willing for somebody else to prove the axiom that you think, right? I mean, be scientific. I mean, we now have science telling us that they are in contact with or interacting with dark matter energy in our magnetic sphere. Now, as long ago as I mean, back to the, Babylonian astrologers, everybody knows that there's things in the magnetic sphere. But to have
Hmm?
science come out and say, we're interacting with it, we can't call it anything else but an entity because it's interacting with us too. Well,
Hmm?
I know what that is. And then they've got CERN, and they're actually doing science to open up
Hmm?
stargates to bring what's outside in. And I don't agree with that at all because it's going to be terrible. But there is science now turning and looking at with a little bit more of an open mind at some of the stuff that these people, that the paranormal researchers have been, gathering, doing, etc. So why wouldn't you want to do the
Well,
best
well,
thing you
what,
could and have
one thing,
science
well,
at,
right. Well, one thing that people don't understand is that, looking at like, the Ryan Research Center and the American Society for Psychical Research and the SPR, there have been people in the field of parapsychology for about 125, 150 years that have been doing this stuff, and it gets ignored. I mean,
Mm-hmm.
there's psychiatrists, there's scientists, there's you name it, have been doing, all this research and all of these abstracts. This stuff's already out there, but nobody wants to look at it because they think, parapsychology is a fringe science. There's a lot of the stuff that were done by scientists.
Mm-hmm.
It's a
Yeah,
it's a it's a mi-
but they
it's a
don't.
mindset. It's a mindset.
Yeah.
You know, you know, I, I'm of the frame of mind, okay, that I'd say that I walk the gray. I think that between science and metaphysics, that's our answer.
Mm-hmm.
And that in metaphysics, I'm also in parapsychology and all that other stuff. It's accumulation of everything. It's just not just science. I mean, because you have to deal with the way that a person deals with their environment with their psi ability, because
Mm-hmm.
that a person is the one that will is dealing with the events. Okay, so you have the person dealing with the events. Now can you have the science find out what the hell they're dealing with? I mean, we don't even know what conscience is.
Right. Right.
So if you
So
don't
we
if
don't
you
know
don't
what
even know what conscience is, all of this other stuff, is it's we got to there's got to be something else there. And the really bad part about it is you're not going to know until you get there.
Right. And you're not going to find out with a completely closed mind or with,
Yeah.
dead set that this is what it is. Um, just, you can't be so skeptical that, you're
I
not
think.
able to, you know what I mean? I lost my
Yeah,
thought,
yeah.
but and it was a
No,
really
no,
good
no. I understand what you're
question,
saying. Well, you can be skeptical, but you can have an open mind. The problem is
Mhm.
that when you become skeptical to the point that you refuse to listen to others' thoughts,
Right.
then you become an island upon yourself, and you don't want to know anything else.
Exactly. Right. And you think you're right. And, so it suffers, the whole field
Yes,
suffers
it does.
well,
You know,
yeah, from that and from
yeah.
the representatives of it. Like you said, there've been these people laboring in the background for years. I mean, this is not like
Hmm.
it's nothing new. Spiritualism, people go around. Here's the other nut to crack, okay, with you. And we've talked about this before, but people go around now, and everybody's a demonologist. Okay, this is like
Oh,
how it goes in like
oh,
cycles. Everybody wants to be this,
oh.
everybody wants to be that, but
Now you're making my brain hurt again.
yeah, demonologist. If you look up the definition of demonologist, you will see it is someone who studies demons. Nowhere in that sentence is it someone who casts out demons, someone who talks to
A
demons, someone who
demonologist is not
cleanses
is
demons.
not a demonologist is not an exorcist.
Right, right.
Never has been, never will be. I
One who
mean,
studies demons. And,
yeah.
it is someone that has a place in the occult tradition because studying demons can bring you into contact with them. It leads on naturally to actual rituals and that scientists have done and proven they actually work. Like, they were written down back, by Arabs and whatever, and then the early church. Those things worked, and that's how they found out about demons. They
Mhm.
considered it studying demons then. They were demonologists. But this today, you've got people that are 21 years old. I'm a demonologist.
Oh,
Yeah.
I don't even talk to somebody
Really?
that doesn't have some road miles behind
And
them.
seriously,
I'm sorry if that sounds if
I
I'm
want to be
sounding.
a demonologist. Well, then you don't know what the hell you're, you're talking about. Well, then here's a bunch of
Yeah,
books. Go home and study. I
yeah,
mean,
yeah, and I don't mean to sound rude when I say that.
no,
It's
no.
just
I
that.
mean, that's just the way it is. It's you have to earn some kind of stripes. Either you grew up in some kind of a situation that made you want it, like me. I didn't. I mean, I'm a child of the '70s. Okay, I was having fun and stuff like that. But I lived in the most haunted house, one of the most haunted houses I have ever heard of. And I
Mhm.
mean, it's like I wanted when my mom died and it took such a toll on her. I just wanted to know what it was about. For a while I didn't want anything to do with it because it's exactly what had led to the hauntings
Mhm.
we had and to her illness and or exacerbated her illness and all. But eventually it was like, well, what
Mhm.
the hell did go on? And so now I can say, I just turned 57 years old the other day. I can say, yeah, I got a little road wear on me. I have a lot of experience and a
Mhm.
lot of practical study and practice. And so I can tell you, you're
Mhm.
21, you're not a demonologist. You're not even a minister. You're
Yeah.
21. I mean, I don't even know what I was, demons were in the back of my mind, but I thought it was something, that I would be putting behind me until my
Well,
mom died. So,
eh, it, what frustrates me too is that there's a lot of folks out there on teams that they claim that well, I've got 20 years in 20 years in field research. Okay, it's like, okay, well, when did you have your first case?
mm,
Well, my first my it happened when I was 18 or 16. I'm
hmm
like, you mean
hmm
you're trying to tell me that you've been going out and servicing folks at 16? Get away from me.
and who were those people? Who,
I don't
who
want
would
to mention.
say
I
that
don't
they
want to
let
mention
some?
the team.
Well, no, I
Yeah,
mean, but I'm just saying rhetorically,
yeah,
who the
yeah. I
hell would
mean,
let a
you know,
16-year-old kid in? They caught, yeah.
yeah, but I mean, it's like you're claiming. Okay, so you're 36 years old now. Your first experience was 16, so you're telling me that you've had 20 years 20 years. You haven't even cracked the surface on learning about the history of the stuff, any of the science or anything at that age, and trying to tell me that you've been dealing with you've been in the field for 20 years. Get away from me.
Yeah,
This
yeah.
frustrates me.
Well, and it should rightly, because what happens is that becomes emblematic of everybody that's involved in it. It drags everybody down, or it stagnates everybody, and it helps people that don't believe uh, in anything supernatural, or that believe but think these people are a bunch of fools or whatever, to categorize and pigeonhole how the paranormal researcher should be, and
Hmm.
they're thinking Zach Bagans. Okay. I mean, I have nothing against
Uh,
Zach. I have nothing against him as a person or whatever. And the one thing
uh,
but listen, Pete, the one thing I do give him credit for, wait, is that remember there was,
I'm glad you and I have the type of relationship we can agree to disagree and still be
well,
friends.
no, yeah, that's right. But the one thing I will say, look, he did all kind of stuff that I don't agree with, but he and Aaron and Nick did own up to the fact that a lot of the crap that they did previous to that particular, like they were in it for several years, when they said it screwed up our lives and this is how. And they admitted that. Okay, they didn't, I mean, it wasn't like, oh, the tell all, but they said our finances, we lost girlfriends, people got sick, and they admitted that. And they didn't go so far as to say our methods might have caused it, but at some point somebody had to think that it would. You don't go, the provoking was the thing that I had the most problem with. The provoking, going in there, and you're going to be a big bully, and you're
I've argued with Zach twice when I used to be on Parahub Radio,
Mhm.
and one of the things was is that I asked him, okay, so you go into a home and these people are scared as hell, and you provoke and you leave. What is your aftercare? And he had nothing to say to me. There was no aftercare. All they've done is stirred up any intelligent energy, if it was even there.
Mm-hmm.
And when they leave, these people are more scared than when they first got there, and they got their shot and they went home. So, I'm just. Yeah,
I watched
I will agree to say that.
No,
I agree to disagree.
I agree. No, I agree with you. No, Pete, listen to me. I do agree with you. Okay, I agree about that part. I'm going to give them a little bit of a star, okay, a little gold star for admitting that they're lying. For admitting, because you will not hear ghost hunters admit, or any of those guys admit, oh, it effed up my life, they at least did. And, then I guess one kind of went their separate ways. It doesn't stop them from continuing the way that they are, because they can't put the Lego together to realize that what they were doing was what was causing. But to admit that it causes problems.
When he bought the Emmons house, okay, when he bought the Emmons house and he got done shooting the documentary, he had the house destroyed. Well, you know what?
Mm-hmm.
Excuse me?
No, he had it torn down. I was going to say right at the same time.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, he had it torn down. Okay, so now you don't have the area that was under question for anybody else to go in and see if it was right or wrong or indifferent. You took it down, so now all they have is what you say. I cry bullshit.
That's unbelievable. That is, the whole thing was kind of like, what? There were children crawling up the wall. I'm not saying that can't happen. I've seen and heard some weird things, but the whole thing, and then him tearing it. You remember spiritualism, okay, and how big it was, etc.
The Fox
Fox
stuff,
house, right. They moved that house. They took the whole house and they put it in Lilydale to study it, like the center of spiritualist movement in America. They kept
to me, that would have been what you would want to do. If you say that you have something here that has a paranormal thing to it, study it. Don't tear it down.
Remember Borley Rectory? They didn't. Eventually, it's torn down now. But remember how much research went on in just that one location in England. And then again, we were saying the Lily, the Fox sister
Harry Price and Peter Underwood crawled all over that place.
Right, exactly, and they were able to. I mean, eventually it burned down after the thing, whatever the hell was in it, said, "I'm going to burn this thing to the ground," and it did. So, I mean, you use that stuff as
laboratories. Yeah, you use that stuff as laboratories. Call in your scientists and find out what the hell is going on.
Exactly. And either, I don't want to say, oh, you're completely a sham, or you miss, I would prefer to say you missed a big ass opportunity, but I don't think that's it. Why did he tear it down? Oh, it was so bad. Look, you've heard people peddle this too. Even the house where the kid that was, The Exorcist was based on, is still standing, and somebody bought it. Okay. That was the house where it started. It wasn't where it ended. It ended somewhere else entirely.
No, it was the Cottage Hill house.
It was the house that he lived on, where he lived in, right? First.
Yeah. Right.
But the house, where's his aunt's house? That was where most of the stuff was manifesting. He came back to the house that they have. It's just a long, but the point is, it's still there, that house. And at one time, it was involved in this major historic possession case. So it's still there for people to go, if they only want to look at it and see it, or go and study it. So why? I don't understand. This was a gold mine. And when I heard he tore it down, I was like, and then they can turn around and say, oh, well, it was so evil, Well, okay, as an occultist, I would say, he tore it down. It was that evil.
I don't buy that. Like what you're saying. If it's so bad, then then you bring in your scientists and you look at it and you find out why. What is caused it? Is it environmental? Is it a mental thing? What is it? Study it, isolate it. Don't tear it down because.
Do you remember the? Oh, I'm sorry. Go ahead. Finish it.
No, go ahead.
Oh, I was going to say, you remember the entity haunting in the house that woman lived in, the one with Barry Taff and all those. They made the movie Entity. The house is actually, I think it's still there. I think the house
is still there.
the entity went with her, and she's dead now. I recently heard, or I heard a
She
while
came to
ago.
Texas. She came to Texas. I don't know
Yeah,
where she
she
was in
moved. Was
Texas.
it Plano? I think she was in Plano, Texas, but it followed her. So
Which tells
that would
you
be a
which
place.
tells me is that it was probably recurrent spontaneous psychokinesis. It was probably something she was manifesting. That's what
Yeah.
I would say.
Wait. Hang on. Oh, I was trying to text Joe. Joe, can we do it at 10:30? Please. He was asking us to break. I was just going to break at 10:30 and just I wanted to carry you through to 10:30. Pat. Pat Pete. Jeez, everybody with a P, but I'm not
I
saying the
answered.
right name.
I answered everything,
He
man. Don't
says
worry about it.
okay. Yeah, I know. Me too. Um, but anyway, no, that particular house, uh, it stayed there. And while she was there, the entity followed. But based on the idea of spirit pollution, okay, like it may not be the thing that it was tormenting her, whatever it is, whether it was a kinetic, projection of her own psychic, but the energy should have attracted other stuff. That's still a place to investigate. Like what affected that with did her living there
Hmm.
have on an environment and what's happening now? It could be years of an investigation, but
Yeah.
today it just seems like nobody has any patience for that. And the problem is nobody's going to take anybody seriously at all until they
Hmm.
begin to collate and they agree to allow to turn over their pet projects to
Hmm.
a neutral eye. You know what I mean? A
Yeah.
skeptic, a believer, or whatever. You assemble experts that everybody realizes as experts, engineers, people who are not even involved with the supernatural. If you're not willing to, if you want to just show your evidence and say this is what I see and this is what it is, well, you know I don't see that. But if I had a whole 8 people sitting on a board of whatever who did have credentials saying, yeah, that's what it is, I don't understand where all of this effort and energy goes. You know what I mean?
Hmm.
Some
No,
people
I
spend
understand.
years doing this. And you know what I
Well, you
think
know
it is, Pete? They want to
what's
be
that?
on TV. They want to be on TV.
Well,
They want to be in the media.
as soon as people started making money on TV, it became a commodity. So then everybody wants to go. Hey, I want to be on TV. As you just said, I've seen a lot of really really crappy contracts for a lot of these folks that go on there. They'll say, and a lot of them are just so stupid that if anybody ever signed them, that you should sign them. But
Yeah.
you give away a lot of your control and your rights, and I mean, shoot, I've seen contracts that Barry showed me on some of the stuff that he got on, that you sign away your editing rights. They can make you look like
Hmm.
how they want to make you look like.
Right.
They can portray you in any way, shape, or form, or your likeness or anything. I mean, and people sign these things because they seem to think that getting onto the TV is going to gonna make them a millionaire or do whatever their agenda is. And I'm
Right.
not, and I'm not knocking a lot of the shows. I mean, there are a lot of good people that worked on those shows. I mean, I
Yeah.
know some of them. I know some of them, and a lot of them have a really good heart, and and really care about what they do.
Hmm.
I'm not knocking them. I am knocking the ones though that try to push the entertainment side and trying to tell me that it's research when I know for a fact that I'm a researcher. I'm not an entertainer, and
Hmm.
you can't tell me what you're trying to show me is research. And the bad thing about it is that the public doesn't know. There's only a
Right.
small amount of people that are actual researchers. Okay, so those are the ones that get frustrated, and those are the ones that bitch on Facebook and on the net and write stuff, and but the public don't understand. And if you try to explain it to them, they don't care. They just know that they want to see what's happening next week, and I can't
Yeah.
blame them for that. I can't blame them for that.
They want
But
to watch 40 minutes of being scared out of their mind, or 40
yeah,
minutes of watching
exactly,
people being scared out of their mind, because that's what
right.
they
And
expect. And you can't blame them because it's
I
entertainment.
can't.
It's being
I
portrayed as entertainment.
But please just know the difference. Is all I ask. Just know the difference between the
Yeah.
research and the entertainment. that's the fine line that a lot of us out here, try to walk all the time, and you're going to piss somebody off anyway. It doesn't matter.
Yeah. Oh, well, I mean, yeah. I'm like, oh, well, because if you piss them
Yeah,
off, then you're touching on something. But,
yeah,
Bernadine and I, like I don't go all over the country and all. I mean, I see you're going to be at something soon. We're going to talk about it before you go. But I don't
hmm
go. I don't look to go either. I have commitments that I can't just necessarily walk away from. I
hmm
don't go. But when we do have an opportunity, like here on the show, to talk about stuff, it's
hmm
the problem with you're describing exactly what's going on. And so we have those people, the production companies, and then you have the viewing public. Well, out of the viewing public, a fair percentage of those are going to see it for the first time and
hmm
get inspired to do it. So
hmm
then they're mimicking what they're seeing on TV that's being passed as methodology and science and quasi whatever.
hmm
And they're going to repeat doing that. And then they get haunted, or they take one step and they're in quicksand and they don't know what they're fooling, because the overall thing is there really is something out there. Okay, I mean, coming from my own perspective of what I learned, and as an occultist, I know it because I've seen these things. I've seen them manifested. I've been at rituals where things
Oh,
happen. Those things are real. And so these people are running around out there inspired by, I don't know, maybe those mountain guys. Okay, I have no
oh my
idea.
God! Are those
They're
the
out
ones
there
that
doing all kinds.
are those the ones that look like the Duck Dynasty folks that walk around with
Yes.
shotguns and build
Yeah.
mousetraps?
Yeah. Yeah.
Oh man,
That's total fiction.
I never laughed so hard when I saw that one show of them.
I asked Nick Redfern. I said, "What do you think of that show?" And he's like, it's total fiction." I think they tried to start it off seriously, but they had a bunch of people who just looked like you just can't take them seriously. So they kind of regurgitated and repackaged it as some sort of a, like, these hillbillies in the woods type thing. So everybody's watching that. I mean, none of that's real. And so how do you think the Bigfoot people feel? Okay,
Oh
the
man,
people who are doing this, the cryptologists.
yeah.
That is the same thing. That show right there with those morons running around out in the woods and all this other
Oh my
crap.
God!
How
What
did you
was that
think
one?
Bigfoot
What's that one?
researchers feel?
What's that one with the? It's a Bigfoot show. I think that the guy's name is Bobo.
You got me. I have no idea.
Okay, it's a Finding Bigfoot or something like that.
I think so, yeah,
All,
because it's different than
all I
that.
know is I watched one show one time that they were looking at something that there was a video of, I think it was a police car or something, that they saw something go across the street. So they were trying to recreate it, and they had Bobo trying to walk across. They damn near killed that guy with that car when they were coming up on him. They almost hit him, and I was like, Jesus Christ, you know.
They should
That's
just call it
science.
Morons in the Woods. I mean, I would. If that was
Oh,
me, I'd be the best show ever. Like
I
Morons
felt
in the
so
Woods.
bad for that guy that night.
Four, four hillbillies looking for Bigfoot. People would tune in every week. Okay, and then just
Oh,
let them be them. Don't give them scripts to follow. Just let them be themselves. I mean,
yeah.
they're missing out on it, and that's when a lot of people have approached us to be in shows and all that. I don't want to be on TV. Come on, I'm a middle-aged mature woman. I don't look like I did when I was 37 years old. I don't want to be on TV, but what I
None
do
of us
have
look
is
like what we did
knowledge
when we
in
were
our head.
37 years old.
Right. And I wouldn't want to watch myself on TV, right? So I don't
Yeah.
want to be on TV necessarily, but I do want to educate people about the fact that what you're seeing on TV is TV, okay? It is
Oh yeah.
TV. It's not even
Well, yeah.
reality, okay? TV.
Well,
It's just,
and you mentioned,
people walking around
right,
feeling
and you
cold
mentioned
and
that.
taking pictures.
Well, you mentioned that you said that you had seen things manifest on with when you were during occult practices and stuff.
Yeah.
You know, I've dealt with, for the last 10, 12, maybe 15 years. I've been dealing with most of the poltergeist cases.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so I have seen and I have felt and have been on the opposite end of poltergeists. I mean, I've been hit, I've had stuff thrown at me, I've been bitten. So yeah, I can tell you there's stuff out there. I mean, so it's not. I'm not when I talk about this stuff. It's not a question of me saying that I haven't been there or haven't seen stuff. I've seen intelligent hauntings too, and like in Galveston, I've seen children and addicts from a 1900 storm house, looking down at me. So I mean, yeah, there's stuff there. What it is exactly, I couldn't tell you. I've dealt with intelligent stuff. Yeah, it's all out there. It's all out there. It just scares me though that when folks just try to emulate TV and don't want to get into the actual study of stuff, I don't want to see them hurt themselves. And I'm not saying that what they're dealing with is going to hurt them. I'm saying, being able to control yourself enough so you can react in a way that you're not going to turn around and walk and run into a tree.
There was a case, and I wrote about it in my book. It was just a short case, but basically a guy and his girlfriend, and it's a place in I don't know, it's a place in maybe Canada. I have my book here, but I will be looking for it forever. Anyway, it was allegedly haunted by a monk or a priest who had killed himself. And I think it was in Canada. Anyway, it's this Gothic building, and it really looks dramatic, and it looks like it could be haunted. Well, this guy and his girlfriend, who had been at the bar, right? They wanted to go there and check out to see if they could see the ghosts. And somehow or other, they got on the roof, okay? And the guy jumped and they were jumping to the next roof over this, like 3 or 4 story drop. He made it amazingly, but the girlfriend didn't, and she died. She fell, 3, 4 stories to her death. And another case that I talk about. Well, I mean, it's terrible. Yeah, I mean, I'll let you know what the exact. But there's another case that even kind of went. I think it went to a lawsuit. So, but there was a couple who ran a team. They were investigating a building, and the founder of the team and his wife went into the attic. And there were bats in the attic. And when they went up there, they started to stir up all, the guano or whatever. I mean, it's on the floor with the bat poop. And they didn't they didn't even have masks on, not respirators. The wife got a lung infection and died. I mean, it's like, wear shoes so that nails can't puncture. Don't climb on roofs. That's nothing supernatural. That's stupid.
Well, that's why it is so important to do a preliminary, to know what the hell you're going into, what type of safety equipment you need to have, even if it's safe enough to go in. Just because a house is old and creepy looking doesn't necessarily mean it's haunted. And if it is old and creepy looking, and if you got permission to go into it, never go into something you don't have permission to, of course.
Absolutely,
but if you do go in, make sure you have yourself mapped out, and so stuff like that doesn't happen. I hate to hear stuff like that.
It's terrible.
It is stupid as hell, but I mean, oh man.
So no, okay, Keith, so whose fault is that? I mean, obviously it's their fault. But who's to blame? I mean, I'm not trying to indict the whole paranormal thing, but something lit them up. And in other words, like, say the whole paranormal thing hadn't exploded, and they heard a ghost story. Okay, they may have gone.
It's still their fault. It's still their fault.
Yeah,
they should have the sense of mind to know what's safe, what's not safe. I mean, I don't care how how cool it might be to go into some place. You got to think about stuff. I mean, Jesus Christ, you can't just go into something just because, hey, let's go in here. We're not Scooby-Doo, okay?
Look, when we were young, and we had spooky, you'd ride around in the car and all this other stuff. That's everybody goes through that.
Yeah, but when we were younger, we had sense. Our parents gave us sense.
My mother was into all this, like doing early EVP type things and all that. I thought she was crazy half the time, okay? But I didn't say, ooh, I want to go see the most haunted house in New Orleans where the dwarves live in the basement, okay, or whatever, and go and do the biggest thing that we would do is go knock on the door, ring the bell, which is terrible to admit, but that's what we did, right? But had I been a later generation and saw all of this TV paranormal bullshit, I would want to do that. You
You
know,
can't let that. But
if I was
but
stupid,
I'm sorry. Go ahead.
I said if I was stupid, and didn't know what the hell I was doing, but I wanted to be like the ghost hunters on TV, you know.
You know, you can't let stuff like that drive you because we all have intelligence, and I would like to think that. Oh man, you can't just go out and do what you see. I mean,
Yeah.
you have to think. You have to think about doing things and think about consequences, and look for the safety of stuff. I understand. You only live once and all that other stuff, but Jesus, you want to be able to wake up the next day. I mean, come on.
Right.
Oh man.
Let me see if I can. Actually, the cases that we're talking about. I'm looking at my book, but I'll let you know off when we're off air. I'll
Okay.
just.
Yeah, I'd
It's
like
a
to hear that.
terrible. It's a terrible story. And there are the things like you're talking about. Just because a house is supposed to be haunted doesn't mean it's safe. Well, that's true. The thing is, it could be homeless people living in there at night. Go in the day. Tell people that you're going to be there. Have a chain of people that if you're not back, at a certain time, they start looking for you. If you're not back at all, they do this. Never
Well,
go alone.
I
These
I got I got an example for you on that. I was allowed to go into a building that was a historical building here in Houston. I can't remember the name of it off the top of my head. And they basically told me they want, when I asked permission, he said, sure, just, count. He said basically count the doors and windows for me, basically just kind of blessing me off.
Mhm.
So, I go in there. And I go in there during the day, okay? Because I'm not going to go in there at night. But I'm walking around the place, and there were homeless folks down there. I saw people walking around down there, and they were physical people. So if
Mhm.
you see that stuff during the day, and if you just walk into something in the middle of the night, you walk up on a homeless guy, you don't even know if he's got a gun.
Yeah, you don't know
You you
anything
know you
about him.
you don't know anything about it.
Mhm.
And also, what about folks that are breaking and entering in while you're there too? So you come up on them, you don't know what's going to happen.
Mhm.
Fight,
That's right.
fight or flight. They might beat the holy hell out of you.
But if
You
you're
might you
using
might
your
turn
common
around you
sense,
might turn around and go down an elevator shaft.
mhm. That's like, trying to sneak into like St. Louis Cemetery number 3, or number 1 in the middle of the city of New Orleans, right? Well, because
Is
so
is
many
that
people
where
went in there and did
is
so.
that where Marie
Yeah, Marie
Laveau is?
Laveau. Well, so many
Yeah.
people did that kind of crap, and some idiot came there and painted it Pepto-Bismol pink. So now you can only go in legally. You can only go
What?
in escorted. Well, you can only, yeah.
No.
Somebody
Marie
painted
Laveau's
it pink. Yeah, it
pink.
was pink.
Oh,
Look, open a jar of
oh,
Pepto-Bismol.
that's bad juju.
But it was a guy, okay, but it was a, well, maybe God loves, the stupid, because he was kind of like mental, and he wanted to spruce up the tomb. Okay. But he did it with pink latex paint. And all that is like that stucco. It's not even, it's like that plaster that they put over, and they just paint it white now. Well, it seeped into the
What
plaster.
what happened to people's respect of stuff like that? I don't
He was,
get it.
he's nuts. I mean, he just wanted to do something. He painted over everything. They had just taken all the X's and everything off and painted it gleaming white, like so Jesus could see it. And he comes in here with the pink. And he turned around and he went to Dr. John's grave, not the musician, but the original Dr. John Montague, and painted his
Yeah.
thing pink. So that's when the church, the church runs it. The archdiocese said that's it. You can only go into that cemetery, that particular historic cemetery, with a tour guide. But there's a will, there's a way, and people do get over the fence and stuff like that. So I mean, they're going to go in there and poke around, and that's not really a good thing to do in that cemetery, even if the guy hadn't painted it pink, and it wasn't. You got to know about the area that you're in. Okay, not there are voodoo practitioners, so you could be walking in on magic, right, or walking where it just happened, and it's a bad neighborhood. I don't care if it's a tourist destination. The neighborhood around it
So
is one of the
so
most
so
crime-ridden
if the
neighborhoods.
so yeah, so if the ghosts don't kick your ass,
Right. You'd want the
Brian,
ghost.
who's coming around the corner, is going to kick your ass for being in his
Yeah, yeah.
neighborhood.
More like Tyrone or somebody, to be quite honest. And our crime
Whomever.
rate is, people die every day down here in New Orleans. It's terrible. And just recently, I mean, they still do it, but there was this spate of people coming up from behind them, hitting people in the head and taking everything from them. And, they run off into areas that they live in that are nearby the French Quarter. So, I mean, you come down here from Poughkeepsie, New York, and you think it's wonderful and magical and all, and next thing you know, you're in the hospital, and God forbid one of you got killed, or you almost got, or they take you and they rape you and they throw your body out in Bayou Sauvage. I mean, it's getting like Chicago. It's actually worse. I mean, it actually is. They did a per capita study that we have actually more murders than Chicago. We are the murder capital of the U.S. And we're getting to be like Baltimore and Philadelphia, where they let everything just fall into ruins. So I
I'm
mean,
real sorry
seriously,
to hear
you're gonna
that.
go. Well, it's cumulative. It's 4 years of bad management, putting money in the pockets. And Katrina, the problem is now they want to tear down stuff that survived Katrina. I mean, we lost so much in Katrina. You would think they would leave the rest of the stuff
Well, there
alone,
are
but no, they
places
just
out
want.
there that still haven't recovered from a Katrina.
Yeah, I know. There are areas like the Ninth Ward, and there's still areas without streetlights.
Yeah,
Out eastern New Orleans, where the crime is the highest, it's like not a priority. And now, oh, this is the best,
I
right?
don't get that. I don't get that.
Hey,
I don't know
you
why it
know what
hasn't
the
been taken care of.
NOPD? I always say, look, NOPD means not our problem, dude. And this is what they did recently, just this week. If you you can now report your crime online. You go to this link and you bring it up and you can fill out the form and everything. And but like if you're
What?
robbed, if it's some kind of misdemeanor, somebody breaks in your house, right? I'm like, you have to go on, you can go online now, and the police don't even have to come, like they were going to come anyway. Okay, this is the laziest police force in the nation. Now
Oh
we
my
fill out a,
God.
and
That
I was
that
talking to my
that's
friend, I was
that's
like, what
that's
are we
insane.
supposed to do? What are we
That
supposed
is
to do? Make
that
a
is
citizen
insane.
arrest? Make a citizen arrest, and then 5 days
No,
later,
what's going
are
to
you
end up
ever going to come
happening is
picture the
people
guy?
people are going to arm themselves and they're going to start protecting their own.
Yeah, but I'm saying, so, can I'd be like, look, online, on with the police saying, I'm building a jail in the yard and a stockade, so we can put him in. And, or 5 days
Oh.
later, they don't show up. Can you come get this guy? He's eating us out of house and home. I mean, seriously, seriously. You can report
He
your
won't
crime
give me my
online.
TV remote. We need to come and
Yeah,
get him.
yeah, exactly. I mean, it's either like,
Oh.
I mean, seriously. Um, they're not even that, it's not that big of a city to do that. Okay, I can conceive of these great metropolises like Los Angeles and New York, where they're overtaxed. These people, this police department is just lazy down here. They would rather shoot the shit on a corner and eat, in front of Pat O'Brien's or with the meter maids over here than enforce crime.
Mm.
And then you wonder, and then some of them who are really good people say, no matter what we do, they're killing each other. 3 and 5 and 6 every day. Somebody's shot, a body is found, and this is what you don't hear about New Orleans. I have told people, don't come down here. Don't come down here. You're not safe. Unless you're with this huge convention crowd and you have it all planned out in buses and stuff. Avoid it like the
Right.
plague. There's a girl this summer, Pete, that lived in Treme. Treme is adjacent to Martin Luther King Jr. Avenue or whatever
Okay.
boulevard. So that gives you an idea. There's one in every city, and ours is no good, right? So they're trying to build up the area adjacent to historic Treme, and apparently a bunch of people went in there and flipped some houses, and now Airbnb is using them, to promote tourism. And then some of them are for sale, like as condos or duplexes. There was a
Right.
girl somewhere else, and she lived down there. I mean, literally right around the corner from the worst possible neighborhood. She's gone. She's gone. She came home and her car was still there, and nobody ever saw her again. I don't even know what happened to her. I don't think they ever found her. Could be sex trafficking, but it's a good chance that she's decomposing at the bottom of some canal or something. You see,
Oh.
It's terrible. So, and New Orleans just keeps making more ghosts and ghosts and ghosts. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But a place like, a lot of the places, I think I'm going to circle it back. A lot of the places that are notorious and haunted and scary are in just old neighborhoods because they're old. They have this historic,
Mhm.
most of them. But yeah, so that's what's been going on over here. So you let me know if you decide to come over here. I'm serious. That's what we were laughing like, okay, what are we going to do? Citizens arrest. you know,
Oh.
I'm maintaining you. I'm detaining him. Well, good. We'll be there Thursday, maybe.
Oh.
you know, come on, NOPD. I'll cook you some red beans. Just come get this criminal. I'm so,
Oh.
I am so serious. And here, look,
Wow.
this has nothing to do with ghosts. Yesterday, I was reading, and I know we're coming up a little bit on the end, and I want to talk to you about where you're going to be. But yesterday, there
Okay.
was a letter that somebody had written a letter. Some woman said that we were too cosmopolitan to be calling, in other words, our po boys, PO apostrophe or PO dash boys. You know what a po boy is? It's the
Yeah.
same
Yeah.
that we should be calling them poor boys like they originally
Oh,
were.
please. Did you tell them to shut the hell up?
Everybody on the thread on wherever it was, I think it was like the Advocate or something online, are like, go to hell, We're not saying po boys because we're ignorant. And then one woman wrote, who
No,
thinks
that's
that
what
we're
they're called. I mean, everybody calls them
po
something
boy?
different. There's
Somebody says a
yeah,
hoagie or a
there's
sub.
hoagies or subways or subs or
Right.
everything.
To be historically accurate, it originally was called a poor boy because it came about during the Depression, in the
Uh-huh.
early part of the Depression. And they would have, in fact, my grandfather had a stand, well, a wagon that he would go around and he would feed the guys from the WTA projects. And that's what it is. It's French bread and, it's your sandwich or whatever you're going to have, roast beef or ham and cheese. And they would call it a poor boy because they'd wrap it up and they could, put it under their arm and they could take it with them, and go
Yeah,
eat it.
and you
And
can
they
eat
were
while you
poor
work.
people, right? And they were feeding poor people. But it's just,
Uh-huh.
like New Orleans, the good part of New Orleans, they absorb it and make it their own. And po' boy is as New Orleans as beignets. It's as New Orleans as red beans and rice on a Monday. It's like don't fool with our don't fool with our vernacular. Don't fool with our
No, that's your history.
seriously. Everybody just, I mean, if I was like, are you kidding? I didn't even get in it. I got to stay off Facebook
I would have
sometimes. And I
lost
get
my
in this,
mind. I would have
I
lost
was
my
like,
ever loving mind. My wife would have been pulling me out of there.
I mean, seriously, shut up.
Yeah. Yeah.
Know it's gentrification. But that's what happened after Katrina. All these people come in from somewhere else. And they're going to make the New Orleans that they saw on HBO Treme. They're going to do that. They're going to, they're going to make it like that. So they might as well make it an amusement park, a Disney park. You know what I mean?
Oh
So
no.
anyway, I don't know if
Yeah.
you, Joe, I don't know if you're there. But we're coming up on. So you're going to be at some kind of convention coming up.
Oh.
I can't remember.
Oh, in March of next. I
Others.
think it's March. I think it's May. Is it March? May of next year? It's SuperCon. I'll be there at
SuperCon. Oh, okay.
in Iowa.
So because they just had one, didn't they?
Uh,
I don't know. I saw it.
not
I just
not to my knowledge.
okay.
Is it?
So where
Yeah.
anywhere before that? What's it got
Serenity
going
Moore is putting this one on. Yeah.
on? Okay.
Yeah. 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 It's. I think. Let's see. I think John Zappis is going to be there, and quite a few, a lot of big names there. I'll be there.
Well, I mean, we didn't have any Collins, but it's always good to talk to you. So who cares?
Uh,
Great. We
it's
covered the
okay.
whole gamut, and I want you to come back too. So when Bernadine's well, and we can all just shoot the bull, doing
Yeah.
that. But
I love being on your show.
I
I
love
love
it.
talking with you and spending time with you.
Yeah, I need to come to Texas over there. But I made
Yeah,
that
you
little
do.
I made that little advertisement for you. I even put the creepy Texas flag and everything. Also, I wanted to tell you I'm very sorry to hear about your friend.
Oh,
So
thank you.
I didn't bug you this week. Yeah, I'm very sorry about that.
Yeah,
So I did that.
I knew him since junior high, and yeah, I
Yeah.
really knocked the pins out. Yeah.
And especially at the holidays, coming up. I
Yeah.
mean, my dad's going to be going to 2 years next week. So, but when you it's sudden and you hear about it, but yeah, I just wanted
Oh,
to
I'm
let you
sorry
know
to
I
hear
was
that.
thinking about you. So, but
Well,
well, we're
thank you.
okay. But yeah, so we're going to be back. We're going to have you back when Bernadine
Okay.
recovers, and we'll do it again. So, if somebody
Okay.
wants to
Sounds
find
great.
you, if somebody wanted to get in touch with you, what's the best way?
Let's see. www.lsspi.org or redohypnosis.com.
Okay, Red Oak Hypnosis. All righty. There's Joe coming in. That was for Halloween, Joe. He cuts in and says stuff. Well, thank you, Pete. Boredom in action. I don't know. Well, thank you anyway. You have a great weekend, and I'll be in touch. I'm gonna send you that info on the stories I was talking about, the news stories.
Yes.
I'll send
I'd
you a
love to see
message.
them.
Yeah, so you can look up more on them. So, but anyway, have a
Okay.
great weekend, and we'll talk to you
Y'all
again
too.
soon.
Okay.
Thank you, Pete. Bye
Bye.
bye. Well, okay, we're going to take a break. You are listening to the Supernatural Substation on the United Public Radio Network. Go listen to some good music because I picked out some Led Zeppelin, and we'll be back shortly.
Yes, demon people.
Yeah. Man, this And we're back. And that was Led Zeppelin. We were talking, the Joe Man and I were talking about back in the day and concerts and near misses. And we are talking about the concert that never was at the Superdome. So, talk about New Orleans being cursed, unfortunately. So, anyone who's still out there, thanks for listening. Thanks for listening to Pete Haviland. Is always he's always got a lot to add. He's always got some good stuff to add to the whole controversy of where's paranormal going next. So I pretty much said my piece about that. Then it needs to even either evolve and allow other scrutiny, or it needs to just go back and wait for its next explosion 20 years from now, maybe. Because just this is just personal opinion, but I don't know how many people like seeing the same thing on every show. You almost want to see the fake shows like My Ghost Story and all that other stuff where the evidence is just not real, but the story's pretty good. Because at the bottom of it is like everybody loves a good ghost story. Everybody loves being scared. A lot of people say no, and I can imagine somebody like me or somebody that's gone through exploded, an explosion of denim and black t-shirts. Levi Jeans was calling them saying, stop, we can't make jeans enough. And we ran out of black dye for the t-shirts. But seriously, they do need a color change there. How about I don't know, neon yellow so you could see each other in the dark or whatever. But seriously, it exploded, but it's not the only time. uh, Pete and I were talking about people like Lloyd Auerbach and Barry Taff and all. That was the first blush in this modern time. Prior to that, spiritualism and table tipping seances, etc. Even with the Age of Reason and the 17th and 18th centuries, shying away from the superstition of the previous centuries, it still persisted, and that was the time that gave us Frankenstein and Dracula and some of the great Gothic horror books that are just iconic at this point. So there's always a place for it. And obviously, before then, in the Middle Ages, you've got the priests. You walk into a medieval town, and you say you need a necromancer, and they're going to point it to the church. The church gets to ride it a lot. They like to call us pagan, but our priests, our lay cleric, etc. Pardon me, our lay clerics. There were some pretty brave people because they get those books from the Near East, the Middle East, the Judaic traditions, and they would do the stuff because they said, hey, we're going to do it like this and this is going to work, and it would work, and they were unafraid. So if you needed that kind of magic on some dark night, you'd go to the church for it. So people say, oh, this and that. Church was pretty badass back in those days. They knew how to cure elf shot. They knew how to make a woman love you. So it was usually the priest trying to get a girlfriend, like Martin Luther. Anyway, the long and short of it is, there's nothing new under the sun. People always want to be scared, but there's also no reason to stagnate an entire field of inquiry by saying, no, we don't want you to see our evidence because we think it's this and we don't agree. So maybe it's coming to that point. I don't know. Anyway, we're going to wrap it up here. I was talking earlier about Terminus. Don't forget, 2 a.m. Get creepy, really creepy. We've got some really good Viking. Just put it on, close your eyes. You feel like you're on a boat or on the TV series. I have a dog going crazy in the background. Miss Bernadine will be back with us again next weekend, which is the 24th. We will be here probably to do a recap or a whole study of one case. December 1st, we have Star Cassas coming up. She's the author of Old Style Conjure. That should be a really good show. December 8th, Lucky Bel Camino, House Psychic Medium at the Lizzie Borden B&B Museum. James Anito, the demonologist, founder of the Dominion Ministry, he will be here on the 15th. And on the 22nd is Christmas weekend, and we're probably going to have a really good Christmas show prepared for you, and that will take us through the end of the year. So you can listen to us in the archives. We're live also on Spreaker at the same time that we're live here, but you can find our archives on Spreaker, SoundCloud, YouTube. You can listen to us on the iHeartRadio network. And so you want to get in touch with me other than on Facebook, you can always find me on Facebook if you dare. Yeah, I need to make some New Year's resolutions about avoiding controversy. But anyway, go to my website, EileenPastanio.net. You can buy my books that I was talking about, Risks Incidental and Haunted Tales of Old New Orleans, Volume 1. There's another one that's coming out soon. It'll be great. You can pre-order it maybe one of these days. And that'll do it. That'll do it for this show this weekend. So have a good one. Stay tuned. I think I have some more Zeppelin lined up, and stay for Quantum Leap with Miss Kathy Bilski, because you're going to get high, I guess, in Hawaii. So good night. Have a great weekend.